welcome to the Why We See Movies podcast. I'm your host, Ron Houghton. Joining me today, as always, we've got Darren.
Hello, hello, hello.
Today we're going to be talking about the surprise hit, Godzilla Minus One.
Godzilla?
Godzilla Minus One was written and directed by Takashi Yamakaze. It's based, of course, on the Yashiro Honda film, and it stars Miyami Hamabi, Ryonosuke Kamiki, and Sakura Ando. The IMDb plot: a new crisis occurs in post-war Japan in the form of a giant monster baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb. Well, if it's not gorillas or Godzilla lately, I don't know what we're talking about on the podcast these days.
Yeah, exactly.
What'd you think of this cult hit?
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. I really liked how seriously it took the subject matter. Within the last year or two, I caught up with the first time the Japanese original from 1954.
Never seen it before?
No, I'd seen bits and pieces of the Americanized version.
Right, with Raymond Burr.
With Raymond Burr, known as Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Right.
And I didn't realize how different the original Japanese version is. I mean, the American one is really, I knew they filmed a few scenes with him to insert in and make him part of the action.
Minutes of it.
But then he narrates over everything, and he's just so omnipresent. It's really his movie. But the Japanese original, I really liked how serious it was, too. Mm-hmm. The campy, multiple dozens of sequels with the lesser costumes and lesser suits. And
Baby Godzilla.
Goofiness, yeah. I wasn't sure how much I'd like the original, but it's so well done, and it takes the subject matter so seriously.
The first few, like Rodan and Mothra, are all pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen either of those. I've seen some of the later sequels.
Mm-hmm. They get more silly as they
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is one of the big ones that comes to mind for me. Yeah, that's in that vein. I was
surprised that this movie was really hearkening back to that 54 movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Plot-wise.
Exactly, yeah. Both movies use some sort of science to try and, instead of just destroying him, using, their wits to find a way to tackle the creature by the end of the film. And
it's very post-war Japan, like it's right after the war.
Oh, yeah,
so a big chunk of the movie is the suffering of the Japanese people.
Yeah, the
and
devastation.
What they've gone through in the war and the firebombing of Tokyo.
Yeah, and the conditions that people lived in for years after, as Tokyo struggled to rebuild. And people were living in slums, essentially, because so that's all there was.
Yeah, so they've already been hit by the time Godzilla shows up. So in many ways, the characters in this, all of them are still dealing with the repercussions of the war in a big way. Yeah, I guess we should talk about maybe the lead character. His name is Kyoichi Shikishima, is what they call him, Shikishima, throughout the movie. And he's the kamikaze pilot that we meet at the beginning of the movie. The sort of coward, the cowardly kamikaze pilot. I'm all for the cowardly kamikazes. Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't have been popular and he wasn't popular. At the scene at the beginning of the film on that island, the other Japanese crewmen there were suspicious of him anyway. So, wait a second, what are you doing back here?
Yeah, that's just to fake plane trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the first time that we see Godzilla. This incarnation of him. He's much smaller in it.
Younger,
I don't know what he's actually feeding on.
Yeah.
Energy.
The original 54 Godzilla would say Godzilla was an ancient prehistoric creature reawakened.
Right.
And I don't know what the filmmaker's idea was, because he seemed to be younger then, as if he was growing. Or maybe he was still ancient, and then radiation.
And then the atomic age is what really
helped him
grow
a little bit.
And did you like the look of this Godzilla?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was interesting. Most people, I'm sure, who are interested in this movie know it was a guy in a suit again.
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Really? For Godzilla's only in the movie, I looked it up, for 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So I would imagine the bulk of it must be CG. There's only a few kind of head-to-toe shots.
I think CG was used to integrate him into the shots well, but I think it was a guy in a suit. He looks good, but smoothed out, so it matches, the scope and the scale of its surroundings and what he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he does have that slow, deliberate walk when he's moving.
Hopefully I'm not dead wrong about that and lying to our listeners, but I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. heard
I'll look it
months and months and months ago before it opened.
Well, that's a real homage to the old films, that's for sure. I like this Godzilla look. He looks a little rougher. Yeah, he looks a little meaner.
And I mean, I think in a lot of the close-ups of his face, CG is used so it doesn't look like just a puppet, right? But to give him some realistic facial movements.
Yeah, and basically...
Yeah, it looks really good.
And talking about the mythology of Godzilla, from what I was reading with Japanese culture, it's kind of different from ours, as we look at him as more of this monster on the loose kind of thing, while they look at him as almost like a weather event, like a natural kind of occurrence and almost a godlike creature, something to be feared, but not necessarily evil, just almost something out of nature.
It's a country that's, on the edge of the Pacific, on the Ring of Fire, that's constantly barraged with earthquakes and tsunamis.
You name it, yeah.
And
they're a warring culture to begin with.
And the horrors of World War II then added on, and it's it's kind of inbred in their culture, this sort of natural disaster thing. So I can understand Godzilla being viewed in that way. Yeah,
they have a slightly different take on him than normal American characters in our remakes that we do.
Right.
It's almost hard not to compare this, to the MonsterVerse movies that have been out. And, we do have another Godzilla in the theaters recently. What do you think of the two? Are they sort of interchangeable for you, or do you like one more than the other one?
Yeah, like you say, different things. Like in this
I've always said he's a hard creature to get any sort of emotional connection with. He doesn't emote.
You're right. Like the ape-ness of Kong, we can sympathize with Kong. He does seem very human, but Godzilla nevertheless elicits a degree of empathy and sympathy from us. And we understand he's not just coming here because he wants to destroy and wreak havoc. He's just doing what he evolved to do. You can't help but feel a little bad when he's being barraged by artillery fire.
Right. But when he's swinging his tail in the city indiscriminately, you don't think he's trying to inflict maximum damage on these people. He's
he's doing what
just being Godzilla.
Yeah, what he's bred to do. He's not an evil creature, like you say, right? It seems like the Japanese characters often need to be persuaded to hunt him down and take him out to stop the destruction. Because like you say, they view him as a natural disaster. So when he leaves after an attack, it's just kind of, all right, attack's done.
Let's clean up.
Yeah, but then, you really should take a different approach. And, okay, there's a few cities now he's destroyed. Let's take care of this.
Yeah. So back to the main characters. Besides Shikishima, we meet Noriko is the woman that he meets. This is after he's come home from the war and found out that his family pretty much gone. Everything he knows is pretty much destroyed. And he meets this woman, Noriko, and this little abandoned child, and they sort of create this makeshift family.
Yeah, it's a lovely family and a nice relationship.
Everyone thinks they're married.
Yeah. Quite frankly, why this chump doesn't consummate the marriage.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess that's just the way he feels about it.
I guess that's that cowardly part of his nature.
He's impotent in the eyes of Japan. I don't know.
It takes him a while to become the hero of the movie.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Then we have the usual stock character of the kind of engineer scientist guy who has all the answers. His name is Kenji Noda. Then there's the neighbor, Sumiko, that we meet. She's the one who's kind of looking after the kid while they're gone.
Right.
So they're pretty much the main characters, and they're all pretty interesting people, and you get to know them well. The engineer guy, pretty much the last hour of the movie is this guy's big plan to stop
Godzilla.
To stop Godzilla. Thanks. And what'd you think of that? This elaborate plan to lure him into the ocean and then to sink him. He says, I'll use the ocean to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how that it was all presented in a serious manner. Like the
whole movie's taking a serious approach.
They treat it like this could be really happening, and what would they do if it was really happening? So the approach of the scientist and any military men in the movie and the main characters. There's no slapstick or comedy or goofing around. They're getting down to business, and the performances are so solid that it carries the weight of this potentially silly plot line because they all believe it and they all take it seriously. We get on board as an audience pretty easily.
So back to his plan. He's almost unstoppable in this movie, Godzilla. That's you can't even blow him up because he has this regeneration ability like Wolverine somehow.
So yeah, exactly. So what do you do? I guess if you can drown him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
using sea pressure. I thought that's interesting.
It's a good plan.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one before.
If an explosion or a fire will cause his cells to regrow.
Right.
Like he sucks in that energy, I guess, and regenerates. The ocean won't be providing an energy source for the cells to regenerate.
Yeah, I thought that was good. There's that sort of Dunkirk moment at the end when all the other ships are coming, all the little ships are coming in to help. It's nice, the notion of it anyways, but they're totally useless when it really comes to doing anything. I don't really know what they're going to do
exactly. There. What are they going to contribute to the plan?
Yeah, sort of a rally the troops kind of moment. Yeah, this whole movie is really everybody sort of trying to shuck off the defeat of the war, really, and trying to find some national pride somehow.
Exactly, coming together to do something that they maybe weren't able to do during World War II and accomplish this together. And yeah, like I said, come together as a nation.
Mm-hmm. I should ask you, how did you watch this movie? Are you a traditional Japanese language subtitles kind of guy?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't listen to the dubbed version?
No, we switched to the subtitles right away.
I sometimes switch back and forth just to kind of see the job that they're doing, and I immediately want to go back. It almost takes a serious movie and makes it very conventionally Americanized.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is we grow up as kids seeing dubbed movies and dubbed movie clips being used for comedy and trying to get a laugh. It's just hard to have that ingrained in you and then watch a dubbed version like this, even though the movie is serious. The process of dubbing English into a foreign language film just psychologically elicits that laughter response out of...
Especially with Asian movies, because they've been done so badly
like the Kung Fu, the classic Kung Fu movies of the 70s that, we see clips of as kids and we're trained to want to laugh at them.
Yeah, most of the early, like Jackie Chan movies I can only find the English dubbed versions. They don't even have the Chinese ones available.
Exactly.
So I'm kind of used to it. Yeah, I listened to both, and it's a much more serious film, even though the dubbing has gotten a lot better over the years, I think.
We didn't switch it until a couple minutes into it, because I just thought like it would default to the correct thing, and it almost looked like, I questioned, did they CGI their mouths in the dubbed version to match the American dialogue better? Because it seemed matched fairly well, but
better than it should.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we quickly switched it to the subtitled.
Good call out there. That's what I would do too. But if you want to watch the dubbed version, go for it.
Yeah, some audiences you can't convince to watch a foreign language film unless they're watching the dubbed version. So if
that'll get you to watch it, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, just talk about a couple spoilers in it. There's not much. In the end, we see about midway through the Noriko woman as part of Godzilla's devastation on the city. I can't remember exactly what town that was when he unleashes his monster blast.
Yeah.
I thought that's really the last that we see of her, because with the impact of that and how fast she's flying, I was going through my head thinking, are we going to see this character again? And just like, logistically, we shouldn't.
No, we shouldn't.
Come on. For her to survive that it would be miraculous. But hey, what do you know?
I mean, you want to see these characters happy and together, so I'm fine at the end.
Yeah.
If they cheat that in a serious drama, and you're like, what is this character doing back? You feel let down as an audience. But in this, it's a monster movie and you want to have fun. And
they all get away unscathed, practically. Were you surprised? The hero's big hero moment, too. This is the kamikaze pilot who...
He overcomes the cowardice.
But he still jumps out. He still parachutes out.
Just in time.
It isn't the ultimate sacrifice that you might think that he's gearing himself up for either.
Well, nevertheless, it was a pretty risky maneuver.
It is.
Could have taken his life.
I was expecting either him to make the sacrifice and maybe her to survive at the end to take care of the baby, or either or, but not both. But
let's have them back together. Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
The little girl deserves a family.
Yeah. And then at the very end, even though they think the day is won, we do see Godzilla's dismembered head floating, beginning to regenerate again. So a sequel is on the way.
I would assume probably there is. And
after the success of this one.
Godzilla and the next one fighting off an alien.
Yeah, Godzilla plus one.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the -1 in this, I looked it up. I wasn't quite sure what the title meant. It refers to the post-war damage. Japan's supposed to be at 0 stage after the war, and Godzilla coming in brings it down even more to -1.
I see.
So they're even below where they were. That's the origin of the title there.
Sense.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, good rousing score. The composer of this one heavily referenced the themes from the original 1954 Godzilla, and they worked beautifully in the modern film. They still hold up today.
Wow. How you recognize stuff for that old? I don't know. I'm no Godzilla expert on the 54 film, that's for sure.
No, but I am familiar with the score. So.
Yeah, I guess you are. So 2 thumbs up. Definitely. I gotta say, I don't know if it's the greatest Godzilla movie of all time. I think it's a very good one, but it is still a pretty predictable by the numbers Godzilla movie. It didn't bring anything substantially new that I hadn't seen before.
Exactly. Generally more well done and with better characters than the modern MonsterVerse from the American studios, which I enjoy those films too. But yeah, I'd put it ahead of those just because of how seriously it takes itself. How
the Gareth Edwards
the strength
one.
Of the characters.
Yeah. Out of the MonsterVerse ones, is the original Godzilla your favorite?
Probably, yeah. The 1954 original.
No, the Gareth Edwards ones.
Oh, Gareth Edwards Godzilla, I think, is the best of the MonsterVerse.
Right, it's more serious anyways.
Exactly, and just handled really well.
I would have to take this one over that one.
I might too, yeah.
Yeah.
The original, not the American, of course, with Raymond Burr. Yeah. But the 1954 Japanese original is probably the best of them all still for me.
Yeah. And if you've got the money to shell out, there is like a fantastic Criterion collection of all those Toho movies. I think they have like all of them, 13, 15 of them.
That sounds, cool but expensive.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I got just the first one on the Criterion Blu-ray, and that's
enough for me.
That's what I'll spend my money on.
Exactly. Okay. 2 thumbs up. Check it out there. It's on Netflix, of course, if you haven't heard.
Yeah, you can get it for free easily now.
Okay, let's move on to our rant and rave section. Do you want to go first this time?
Sure, why not? First film I want to talk about is the 2022 film You Won't Be Alone. Written and directed by Goran Stolevsky, starring, amongst others, Numi Rapace, Alice Englehart, Anna Maria Marinka, Sarah Klimoska, and as you can tell, it's a largely Eastern European or European cast and crew, and it is a subtitled movie.
It is? Okay.
And
I don't know if you remember when I mentioned it briefly for a second on my best of last year.
Yeah.
I couldn't even remember if it was a subtitled movie.
Well, here's the thing.
Because there's so little talking in it.
Exactly. I'm going to say less than 5 minutes of dialogue is spoken by characters in the film.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The rest of it is all interior narration and monologue from the main character. Numi Rapace might be sort of the star of the film, but she's only plays the main character maybe half an hour or 25 minutes, something like that. The rest. But what it is, it's the story of a witch who feels she's been wronged, and during a flashback you see she probably was wronged. She's exacting revenge on descendants or people currently occupying the land that she was wronged on so many years ago. And as witches do, puts a curse. This woman then in this home does everything she can to protect her daughter from this curse that's been placed on her, raising her daughter in a cave that has sort of a religious grotto. It's got some religious significance to it, and she feels this will ward off the witch's spell. No, it doesn't work. The witch comes and kills the mother, turns the daughter into a witch.
Almost inhabits her.
Well, not fully.
No.
Because she accompanies her. The mother raises the daughter in this cave until she's 16 years of age when the curse takes effect. Very Sleeping Beauty-like at the age of 16. And so the 16-year-old girl who's now been turned into a witch and joins the witch since her mother has been killed on her countryside wanderings. This is not ruining much for you audience members out there. This all takes place first 15 minutes probably. And then the rest of the movie is about the young witch, the 16-year-old, who spends a couple years traveling with this older mentor witch. And then she kind of wants to know what it's like to be human. And she first has to kill before she can inhabit various women and men that she encounters. This is all very probably 1800s, early 1800s, countryside in Europe type stuff. So, it's not very civilized, very small village settings, farmers and peasants are most of the characters here. Despite it being about witches and curses and killings, it's not a horror movie. To me, it played more like a Terrence Malick film. Like it really seemed Malick-esque.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that.
It had a very...
One with nature.
Yeah, like, with all those interior monologues and hardly any dialogue and musings on, what the character is thinking about and going through. It reminded me of Malick. Yeah, it was just really interesting. Like, she spent her first 16 years in a cave. She doesn't really know what it's like to be a human. After that, when she leaves the cave as a witch. So you can see that sort of passion. And Numi Rapace, of course, is one of the women she murders and then inhabits her body to try and live her life. She takes over the personalities, the lives of these people, and interacts with their families after killing and inhabiting their skin. And it's just, it's kind of a fascinating enterprise to watch. This character who's not human. It could have been, didn't have to be a witch. It could have been an alien.
Could have been an invasion of the body snatchers.
Yeah, exactly. But what does this non-human character learn from joining human society as she does? And it's,
if you're going to compare it to an alien analogy, there's that Scarlett Johansson movie, Under the Skin.
Exactly, yeah, very much like that.
Yeah.
Except she's not as much of a main character character the way the witch is in this.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But it has that kind of slow moving,
definitely, yeah.
yeah, engrossing feel.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have a conventional plot by any means.
No, it's, I mean, I can't even remember how it ended because the movie is so much about the experience of it as opposed to what it's leading to. There's no story really. It's not progressing to anything. It's just a interesting journey really is what it is.
Well, they always said Malick's movies you can sort of come in and out of because they don't really have a beginning or end either.
Exactly,
so.
Yeah. That's probably why he shaped his movie so much in the editing room. Like, oh, what should I make part of this journey? That's plot-wise, nothing really matters.
It's not for everybody, that's for sure. But if you're interested in a different type of film, and
my wife didn't make it past the 30-minute mark, I don't think, and she's like, "All right,
see you later.
I'm going to read my book."
But yeah, it's I liked it a lot. Like I said, it's just rounded out my best of for that year. So
yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, I'd like to see it again in a few years. And what's the title again?
You Won't Be Alone.
You Won't Be Alone, right?
Well, the young witch, when she eventually breaks off her relationship with the older witch, but the older witch resents it and is always kind of lurking somewhere. So she's never alone. But Noomi Rapace makes another appearance in the second movie I want to rave about tonight. The Icelandic film Lamb.
Oh.
From 2021, directed by Valdimir Johansson, written by Sion and Valdimir Johansson. This movie has about a cast of 4. Noomi Rapace plays the wife on this sheep farm in Iceland. Her husband, and then her husband's brother make up the cast. There's a couple people on TV here and there, and another strange character later on. But the movie begins on a Christmas Eve, and the sheep in the barn are restless about something. And this movie has a lot of sort of ominous shots and sort of foreboding shots where you're wondering what exactly is happening here. And that's kind of what you're thinking on this Christmas Eve. And then it's the spring. The female sheep, the ewes, are all giving birth to the lambs that they were impregnated with over the winter by the rams. And one of the infants is the creature, the lamb of the title, which we don't even see for at least 20, 25 minutes after its birth. And part of me doesn't want to ruin it because it's quite the reveal when it happens. But at the same time, it's not a big surprise in the movie. So I will tell our audience,
go for it.
Mute your iPod or your computer or whatever you're listening on for a few minutes here, your phone, if you don't want to find out. But this ewe gives birth to a part human, part lamb. It's more or less the body of a human infant, the head of a lamb, and one lamb forearm or forelimb. And Noomi Rapace and her husband decide to raise it as their child. They've lost at least one child, I think. Was there 1 or 2 crosses in there? There's like a sort of cemetery on their farm, little gravesite. You get the idea that Noomi Rapace has, whether in childbirth or whatever, has lost 2 children. And so you can understand she's got this mothering instinct and wants to raise this lamb. The mother, the actual biological mother, wants it back. Like it's her child, and it's just a sheep. She can't do much, but you see her baaing outside the farmhouse and towards the window, and she kind of wants her child back herself. Noomi Rapace takes care of that. She doesn't want a competition from that mother. And then they go on to raise this child, and there's some tough scenes as the brother-in-law, her husband's brother, comes and is like, "What are you guys doing? Raising this thing as your own?" And it's the cutest little thing. Once when you see it, once they dress it up as a little child, and it's walking around with its lamb head, and holding the hands.
It's cute but odd.
It's odd, but it's cute, and it's fun to watch it. It's walking around and interacting, but it's not all cupcakes and roses by the end of the movie. And I definitely won't ruin what happens there at the end. But
did you like the movie?
I did. I really liked it. I thought it was fascinating. I loved the characters.
I was more interested than loving it. I wanted to see where it went. But ultimately, once it got there, I was like, was that worth the whole... It's like the last movie you talked about. It's got a very deliberate pace to it, for sure.
Also, no plot, really.
Not a lot of dialogue, really, even. Yeah. Well, a bit, but more than the last one.
A lot more than, I guess.
It's almost just as strange.
Yeah, it's strange, too. And, both of these movies aren't going to be for everyone.
Did you read any of the, allusions that they're trying to interpret through this movie?
No, I didn't read too many.
Any religious? The Christmas time, Jesus being the lamb. And
exactly, yeah. You can see that significance.
Yeah, I felt it there. I'm not quite sure if I decoded it or not. But
yeah, it's a little twisted by the end, too.
Yeah. I wouldn't say don't watch it if you're interested. Like, recommend it.
Yeah,
but I didn't love it.
Megan got through this one from start to finish and enjoyed it, so maybe a little more palatable. I mean, if you're not a Malick fan, you're not going to like You Won't Be Alone,
that's for
probably.
sure. Right.
But, not that it's a commercial film by any means, but it's a little more audience-friendly than You Won't Be Alone, I will say. Yeah, you know, if you like European cinema and something different than the usual American fare, it's definitely worth a watch.
I think both of them rely on a horror aspect for the film that really doesn't deliver.
Neither one is a horror film at all. They have elements in there where if you didn't know better as an audience member, you might think, oh, so this is going to be a horror movie? And no, neither one are. So don't get the wrong impression. If you do want to see a horror movie, though, I'll talk about a third film.
Sure.
I highly recommend you avoid at all costs. It was the abysmal, and this movie has gotten phenomenal reviews from critics and audiences. It's 2023's Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, I hated it.
The next film, you watched it too?
Yeah.
You suffered through it as well?
Yeah.
It was just an endless assault on the senses, and I've never seen so much bodily fluids spewed out from a variety of orifices in any film. Nothing is scary in it. There's not a single moment that was scary or ominous. I mean, I got more moments of ominousness from the previous two movies, and You Won't Be Alone,
for sure.
This, and they weren't meant to be scary.
Yeah. No, this is one, by the number schlock.
Yeah, and I mean, it was executive produced by Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
Well, they can put their name on it, executive
I thought,
producers.
With their endorsement and the reviews, I was kind of looking forward to this. And, the original Evil Dead, well, especially Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness from Sam Raimi, are known as great black comic horror movies. And about halfway through this, I started thinking to myself, am I meant to find this darkly comic?
No, it's done in a different style.
Yeah, I was like, am I just not getting it? Because it wasn't funny. There was I love good dark humor, and this did not have it. If they tried for it, they failed miserably. And it's not scary. It's cliche. Like everything that happens in this, if you're a moderate fan of horror movies, you've seen all these little gags and tricks and jump scaring and spooking you a dozen times over the past 15 years in other better horror movies.
Yeah, it's made for teenagers who don't know better.
Avoid Evil Dead Rise at all costs.
For sure.
I won't linger on it any longer.
Frankly, I don't know if I'll catch some heat for this, but I think the entire Evil Dead franchise, even the first one, is highly overrated, frankly. And this one is
You might be
not
right,
much better.
But I can understand the cult following it has at the very least.
They're such different films. The first one is a straight-up horror movie. The second one verges on parody. And then the third one is straight-up parody.
And you know what? I want to mention Ron Howard was a recent guest on the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend podcast. And he talked about modern television, how they always try to lure you in with an opening 2 minutes of any episode, and something crazy happens in that first 2 minutes. And then
flashback.
Title
6 months before, 2 days earlier.
And that's like every modern TV show. And this movie started with that same cynical, crazy, horrific scene, and then 1 day earlier. And then the full movie after that had nothing to do with those characters from the opening prologue. It was just cynically done to lure in the audience and hook us into this fascinating horror story, which it wasn't. Everything about this movie was offensive to a fan of movies.
Well, I guess I'll be hearing more about it on your worst of.
Oh, it'll be on my worst of for sure.
Okay. 2 raves and 1 rant there.
That's right.
I'll go. I got 3 as well today. 3 movies, all from this year. No, the third one is from last year. Okay. First one is Bob Marley, One Love. It's directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, and it stars Kingsley Ben-Adir as Bob Marley and Lashana Lynch as his wife. First off, I am a big Bob Marley fan. I love his music. I have a bunch of his CDs still. And
his music's great.
Oh, it's just wonderful. I love his story. I have a terrific documentary just called Bob Marley, which really examines his life thoroughly, and it's wonderful in a way that this movie doesn't. For being a big fan of him, I was super disappointed in this movie. This is not the Bob Marley movie I've been waiting decades for, that's for sure. One of the problems is like Queen or the Beatles, some of these other big music bios, is you have to go through the family. You got to make sure the family is on board with everything producers want to do. It's like they get to kind of choose what movie is going to be made.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking. They're not movie producers at all, or writers. Yeah, because this is a rambling mess of a movie. It just doesn't know what to focus on. Doesn't go into his origin story very well. You think it's going one way in the first half an hour. There's this big concert that was very important with the political parties going on. And, you think the movie's almost gearing towards a moment in that. And then it sort of completely bypasses that and moves on to something else without even covering what they were sort of gearing up for. And it's just meandering. A meandering mess. It has all the music, I'll tell you, because they had unlimited rights to it. So it sounds great when you're listening to it.
Yeah,
but it's not a convincing performance. I don't think he's been given enough to do. They just don't focus on the right things in this movie. Show me something I care about. They keep on bringing this parade of characters that have no backstory, like Bunny Livingston and Peter Tosh are brought in without any explanation as to who they are. You sort of have to know Bob Marley's story really well to watch this movie to even understand what they're talking about. It's a mess.
And one of the major criticisms I've heard of it, too, is it just absolutely avoids any controversial aspect of his life. I mean, this is a guy who, he said, like the violence of the Jamaican political parties at the time and drugs and so on, and it just seems to, you tell me, but
Yeah, he's like a guy caught in the middle of a lot of things, but you don't really care about what he's caught in the middle of.
Yeah.
It seems the movie just doesn't take the time on anything to really care about it properly. I think Lashana Lynch is actually really good. She's the one from Captain Marvel. Who plays Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
She's an or the senior one. Yeah. And she's fine. This Kingsley Ben-Adir is actually the villain in Secret Invasion. So they have a couple of Marvel people here.
Okay.
It's not that they're bad performers. And this director actually made a movie I liked quite a bit a couple of years ago. He did that King Richard movie with Will Smith.
All right. Yeah.
You know, the infamous movie. So he's capable of doing a biopic of focusing on the right things. I think it's the Marley family that got in the way, and they forced a movie to be made that's the wrong movie about Bob. I think you'll walk away from this movie knowing less about Bob Marley than you did going in.
Sounds like that documentary is the one to watch.
Absolutely. Check it out. It's just called Bob Marley. It's a much better film in every aspect. It's too bad. This guy deserved a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, my next one is a much more interesting film. It's called Late Night with the Devil, written and directed by Cameron and Colin Cairns. It stars David Desmalian, Laura Gordon, Ian Bliss, and Ingrid Torelli. You've maybe seen the trailers for this. It's a talk show host in the 1970s. He has this show. That's the character David Desmalian's playing it. The show is called Night Owls. And he's the host, Jack Delroy. Basically, it's sweep weeks around Halloween time. The three major networks, there's only three at the time, are all looking for a boost in their ratings. And he thinks he's got the idea, which is to do a live show where they bring in supposedly a little girl and her medium. And they try to conjure up the devil on live TV. And for the most part, this movie's pretty successful. I mean, it has a lot of limitations budget-wise. And frankly, some of those supporting actors aren't very good. David Desmalian is a really good actor.
He's excellent.
I don't even know what to say you might know him from because he's been in so much lately.
He's a very familiar face.
Yeah, he was the polka dot guy in the last Suicide Squad. Right. He was one of the trio of guys in the Ant-Man movies that Paul Rudd's attached to. Yeah. Kind of the Russian guy.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's a terrific actor and really carries the film. It has a great 70s vibe to it. It's a great hook for a movie, this live broadcast of a show where
I've avoided the trailer.
You don't know what's going to go on.
I don't really want to know too much about it because it just sounds so interesting. I just want to watch it.
I don't want to give it too much praise because I don't think it's that great. But I love it when people just, a couple of writers like this writing directors team of brothers, I assume. It's the ingenuity that matters more than the budget for something like this. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of surprises in this movie and how it unfolds more than I thought. The Jack Delroy character has an interesting past. He has a wife that's recently deceased. He's still mourning her. So if we're getting into ghosts and stuff, who knows who's going to be making an appearance. There's a skeptic that they bring into, like a classic kind of 70s skeptic to kind of debunk the whole thing. He's sort of an interesting character. I think if you like horror films, you're going to be checking this one out for sure. And if not, if you see it come up, look for it. It's hard to think about a movie it's like. If anything, did you remember this old BBC sort of infamous show is called Ghost Watch, where they actually tried to do the same thing on live British TV? And they went to haunt. Yeah, it's kind of got that kind of feel to it. It's a little cheesy, purposely cheesy, you know, in a 70s way. Just like you said, I don't want to reveal too too much because there are a lot of surprises, especially in the second half of the movie for sure.
Well, just the fact that you said you can't think of really something else to compare it to, I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Evil Dead Rise, like I said, everything in there is stolen from a better horror movie.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Everything in this movie is original. Whether it works or not is another matter, but at least they're doing something new.
Yeah, which I can definitely appreciate.
Absolutely. I look forward to what these guys are going to do next because they're going to have a bigger budget for sure.
And where did you say you watched this? You had to subscribe.
Right. It was on Amazon Prime and it was on Shudder. And I subscribed to Shudder for a free month, I think.
Right.
The thing to do is just subscribe for the free month and then like an hour later, just cancel it. So you make sure that you're not paying for any more past your 30 days and you still get the full month to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I watched a few movies on Shudder, a lot of old Gallows, Italian 70s movies.
Yeah.
And they were pretty good, but this was the highlight for sure. As soon as I saw the trailer to this, I knew I wanted to check it out and it didn't disappoint.
I've been wanting to watch it, so I don't know if I'm going to go through the trouble of subscribing, but hopefully it comes out in another avenue.
I know it's coming out in Blu-ray in August. Okay, and then the third movie I want to talk about today is one from 2023. It's directed by the great Ari Aster, who's only directed a couple movies, but they're significant. Midsommar and Hereditary. And the movie is called Beau was Afraid. This one stars Joaquin Phoenix, Amy Ryan, Nathan Lane, Parker Posey, Kylie Rogers, Patti LuPone. Those are supporting. It's really Joaquin's movie from beginning to end, all 3 hours of it. Talk about a different movie. It's like a nightmare film. It's darkly comic. Phoenix plays this character, Beau, who is sort of reclusive, insecure, who doesn't like to leave his apartment. And
I don't know if that's a stretch for Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly. He's perfect in it. Once he leaves his apartment, you can see why. It's sort of this almost dystopian, not quite apocalyptic, but the world's gone nuts. Like once he leaves his apartment building, he's accosted by people, various crazy things going on in the background. There's robberies and rapes going on all around. He's just trying to get across the street to the drugstore to get his medication. And it's like a tightrope walk, just getting there and back across the street. So you understand why this guy might not want to leave his house that much. He gets some tragic news that his mother has died. Hilariously tragic. It's an original death for sure. So the whole movie is almost an odyssey of him leaving his place and trying to make it to his mother's funeral a few towns away. And all the people that he comes in contact with and things that are impeding his journey. I don't want to spoil too much. Let's just say Nathan Lane and Amy Ryan are hilarious characters they take care of him for a small part of the movie. You think they're one thing and they're certainly not. Yeah, all building up to this nice conclusion with this character who's, I don't know what he's really struggling to find. He's a tough character to really root for. I'm not sure if even he knows what he wants in his life or not, but it's funny to watch. And for a 3-hour movie, I was never bored. I mean, one thing Aster can do is direct interesting shots and create interesting visuals. So, yeah, this movie is chock full of a lot of stuff. I mean, just when you think it might be becoming more conventional, it goes crazy again. And there's a whole part around the second hour where the movie almost turns in on itself and you're not quite sure what's going on and takes a different approach. I love that. I never had secure footing in this whole 3 hours of a movie, but I enjoyed every minute of it. And I look forward to his next one. This was, I supposedly was a real passion project for him. He had it written before he even made his first 2 movies.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what he wanted to say in this movie, but I did enjoy it.
Sounds great.
Have you seen the trailer to this one?
Yeah, and I've been wanting to see it ever since. And you called it a nightmare scenario.
A nightmare film, yeah.
It is. Every clip I've seen of it, the trailer does look like some strange, surreal dream.
Yeah, darkly comic, though. I laughed a lot.
Sounds like it's right up my alley. I look forward to it.
Yeah, check it out. And again, it was something I watched on Amazon Prime and actually had to get a subscription to Paramount Plus. It was only a week. I actually watched that, Bob Marley, and another movie I'll talk about next week. So I did get my money's worth out of my free week
of
subscription.
Plus.
Yeah,
Okay.
That one for sure I would recommend. Beau was Afraid. Late Night with the Devil for sure. And Bob Marley, one big pass on that one, unfortunately.
Too bad.
And both of yours I recommend too, Lamb and You Won't Be Alone. And for everyone out there who hasn't seen Godzilla Minus One yet.
For sure, it's worth it. Check it out.
Check it out for sure. That's it for today. Next time we'll be back to discuss the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Until then, you can give us a like and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram accounts. And if you want to search out our past reviews, you can check them out on our website, whyweseemovies@libsyn.com. Thanks for listening and take care.
Farewell.